Imagine entering a tomb untouched for over 1,000 years. Your flashlight cuts through the darkness, and there, in the stone chamber, you see it. A skeleton glowing, shimmering with an unearthly red light. Not decay, not dust. Blood-red cinnabar coating every bone. A jade mask covering her face. Jewelry worth a kingdom scattered around her body. This wasn't just a burial. This was a statement, a declaration of power that echoed across a millennium. This is the Red Queen of Palenque, and for decades, no one knew who she was. June 1994. In the Chiapas jungle of southern Mexico, archaeologists are excavating Temple XIII at Palenque, one of the greatest Maya city-states of the Classic period. They're working in the shadow of Temple of the Inscriptions, the pyramid where Pakal the Great, Palenque's most famous ruler, was buried in 1952 in one of the most spectacular tombs ever discovered in the Americas. Pakal ruled for 68 years. From age 12 to 80, he transformed Palenque from a regional power into an artistic and political superpower. His tomb was filled with jade, stucco masks, hieroglyphic texts describing his divine kingship. It was the archaeological discovery of the century. But Temple XIII, the smaller pyramid adjacent to Pakal's, had never been fully explored until now. The excavation team, led by archaeologist Arnoldo Gonzalez Cruz, breaks through into a burial chamber, and what they find stops them cold. A limestone sarcophagus sealed, undisturbed for over 1,300 years. They open it carefully, dust and humidity making every movement delicate. And inside, they find her, a female skeleton, completely covered in red cinnabar powder mercuric sulfide, toxic and brilliant. The substance used by Maya royalty to preserve the dead and mimic the color of blood. 7 kilograms of it, coating every bone, turning the entire burial chamber into a crimson cave. Her skull is covered by a mask made of malachite green stone, sacred to the Maya. Jade jewelry covers her body. Pearl earrings, shell ornaments, hundreds of jade beads that would have formed elaborate necklaces and bracelets. The burial rivals Pakal's own tomb in wealth and prestige. But there's a problem. She has no name. The sarcophagus bears no inscriptions, no hieroglyphs identifying who she was, no birth date or death date carved in stone. The Maya obsessed with recording their rulers' lineages, their conquests, their divine right to rule left this woman anonymous, or so it seemed. The archaeologists give her a temporary name, the Red Queen, and the mystery begins. For over a decade, archaeologists debate her identity. The theories multiply like jungle vines. Maybe she's Pakal's mother queen Tz'akbu, a powerful woman who ruled as regent before her son came of age. Maybe she's Pakal's grandmother, or his sister, or a daughter who died young. Maybe she's not related to Pakal at all. Maybe she's a priestess, a ritual specialist whose spiritual power earned her royal burial. The problem is evidence. Mayan kingship is patrilineal. Power flows through fathers to sons. Women can rule, but usually only as regents when male heirs are too young. But this tomb suggests something different. The location alone is significant. Temple XIII sits directly next to Pakal's pyramid. In Maya cosmology, spatial proximity equals political and spiritual connection. You don't bury someone next to the greatest king in your city's history, unless they're monumentally important. The burial goods support this. The jade alone, considered more valuable than gold by the Maya, represents immense wealth. And the cinnabar? That's not just preservation. That's transformation. The Maya believed cinnabar powder kept the life force active after death. The red color, like blood, like the sun at dawn, symbolized vitality, power, rebirth. 7 kilograms of it meant this woman was expected to remain powerful in death, to continue influencing the cosmic order from beyond the grave. But who was she? The breakthrough comes from science. In 2006, DNA analysis and skeletal reconstruction finally provide answers. Mitochondrial DNA extracted from her teeth doesn't match Sac-Cuck, ruling out the mother theory. Facial reconstruction from her skull shows a woman who died in her late 50s or early 60s. Too old to be Pakal's daughter, too young to be his grandmother. Osteological analysis reveals high-status lifestyle markers. Strong bones indicating good nutrition throughout life. Teeth showing elite diet maize, but also meat and cacao. Skeletal stress patterns consistent with ritual performance, hours spent kneeling, performing ceremonies, maintaining the physical postures of divine kingship. And then, the final piece. Chemical analysis of the bones shows isotopic signatures matching the Palenque region, meaning she lived there most of her life, not arriving from elsewhere as a foreign bride. Cross-referencing these findings with the few fragmentary hieroglyphic texts that mention Pakal's family structure, archaeologists reach a conclusion. The Red Queen is Lady Tz'akbu Ajaw, Pakal's wife, his principal consort, his political partner for decades, the woman who stood beside him during Palenque's golden age. And suddenly, the entire burial makes sense. She wasn't buried next to Pakal by accident. She was buried there by design. Because she wasn't just his wife, she was his co-ruler. Understanding who the Red Queen was changes how we understand Palenque entirely. Because Pakal's 68-year reign, the longest in Maya history, wasn't a one-man show. It was a partnership. Tz'akbu Ajaw came from a powerful northern Maya dynasty. Her marriage to Pakal wasn't romantic. It was strategic, an alliance that connected Palenque to northern trade routes, to military networks, to the complex web of city-state politics that defined classic Maya civilization. And she didn't fade into the background after the wedding. She actively participated in governance, in ritual, in the performances of divine kingship that legitimized Maya rule. We know this from several sources. First, the Temple XIII burial itself. The architectural investment alone, building an entire pyramid as her tomb, signals her importance. The Maya didn't build monuments for decorative consorts. Second, fragmentary inscriptions mention her participation in bloodletting rituals. In Maya religion, royal blood sacrifice was the ultimate act of cosmic maintenance. Kings and queens pierced their tongues, genitals, earlobes, and let blood flow onto paper that was then burned, feeding the gods, maintaining the universe's balance. This wasn't ceremonial. It was cosmologically essential, and Tz'akbu Ajaw performed these rituals alongside Pakal, equal participant in maintaining the cosmic order that kept the sun rising, the rains falling, the crops growing. Third, her burial goods include items associated with rulership, not just queenship. the jade mask, the cinnabar preservation, the placement adjacent to Pakal. All of this suggests she wielded independent authority. But here's where it gets complicated. Maya women could be powerful. They could rule as regents. They could perform rituals. They could own property and command respect. But they occupied an ambiguous space in the patrilineal power structure. Tz'akbu Ajaw's power came through her relationship to Pakal. Her sons, future rulers of Palenque, derived legitimacy partly through her northern lineage. She was simultaneously powerful and constrained, influential and dependent. Like Nefertari in Egypt, like medieval European queens, like powerful women throughout patriarchal societies, she found ways to wield authority within a system designed to limit her. And one of those ways was ritual. Maya kingship was performed. It wasn't just political or military, it was cosmological. The king didn't just rule people. He maintained the universe. And Tz'akbu Ajaw mastered that performance. The bloodletting ceremonies, the astronomical observations, the dedication of temples and monuments, the sponsorship of artistic production, all of it required her participation. Her body, her blood, her presence. Pakal could not have maintained divine kingship alone for 68 years. He needed her, ritually, politically, practically. And when she died, probably around 670 to CE, though we're not certain, he honored that partnership with a burial that declared her eternal importance. Temple XIII wasn't just a tomb. It was Pakal's acknowledgement that Palenque's golden age was built by two rulers, not one. The symbolism in Tz'akbu Ajaw's tomb tells us how the Maya thought about power, death, and cosmic renewal. Start with the cinnabar, 7 kilograms coating her skeleton, preserving the bones, turning them red. In Maya cosmology, red is the color of the east where the sun rises, the direction of rebirth, of beginnings. Red is also blood, life force, the substance that connects humans to gods. By covering her bones in cinnabar, Pakal's mortuary priests were making a statement. This woman's power doesn't end with death. Her life force remains active. She will be reborn, like the sun, like the maize god emerging from the underworld. The jade reinforces this. Over 1,000 jade beads, jade earrings, a jade mask covering her face. In Maya thought, jade represents water, vegetation, fertility, the color of young maize shoots, the color of life itself. Jade masks specifically were reserved for the most elite burials. They transformed the dead into gods. Literally, the mask didn't just cover the face, it replaced it. Made the deceased into Kaawil, the lightning god, into the maize god, into eternal, divine presence. Tz'akbu Ajaw's jade mask meant she wasn't just remembered, she was deified, made into an ancestral power that future rulers could invoke, could pray to, could claim spiritual legitimacy from. And the tomb's location inside Temple XIII, adjacent to Pakal's pyramid, positioned her in the sacred geography of Palenque. Maya cities weren't just political capitals. They were cosmological maps. Every building, every plaza, every tomb was positioned according to astronomical alignments, mythological significance, ritual function. Placing Tz'akbu Ajaw next to Pakal created a cosmic partnership that would endure forever. When future rulers performed ceremonies at Pakal's tomb, they would also honor her. When they traced their lineage back to the Golden Age, they would cite both of them. She became part of Palenque's foundational mythology, not just a queen who happened to live during important times, but an essential architect of those times. The Red Queen's burial also reveals something about Maya attitudes toward preservation and decay. The jungle doesn't preserve. Humidity, heat, insects, vegetation, everything conspires to break down organic matter. Wood rots, textiles dissolve, even stone crumbles under relentless biological assault. The Maya knew this. Their entire civilization existed in constant struggle against the jungle's appetite for reclamation. So when they wanted something to endure, they went to extraordinary lengths. The cinnabar wasn't just symbolic. It's actually antimicrobial. It slows decomposition. Combined with the sealed stone sarcophagus and the temple's protection, it gave Tz'akbu Ajaw's remains a fighting chance against time. And it worked. 1,300 years later, when archaeologists opened her tomb, they found her bones intact, preserved, still glowing with that unearthly red shimmer. A middle finger to entropy, a victory over the jungle's hunger. Her body endured because Pakal and his priests intended it to endure. That's not just burial. That's architectural defiance of natural law. And it worked until 1994, when González Cruz's team rediscovered what Pakal had protected for 13 centuries. But here's the tragedy embedded in the Red Queen's story. We almost lost her name entirely. For 20 years after her discovery, she was just the Red Queen, a designation, a placeholder, an archaeological mystery. Her actual identity, Tz'akbu Ajaw, wasn't confirmed until 2006. And even now, many people still call her the Red Queen because that's the name that captured imaginations. This near erasure wasn't accidental. Pakal's tomb, discovered in 1952, became world famous. His sarcophagus lid depicting him falling into the jaws of the underworld at the moment of death became an icon. His name, his reign, his achievements were all meticulously recorded in hieroglyphic texts that archaeologists could read. But Tz'akbu Ajaw? Almost nothing. Why? Partly, it's preservation. Many inscriptions were destroyed or weathered beyond recognition. The jungle claimed thousands of texts before archaeologists could record them. But partly, it's historical bias. Maya scribes prioritized male rulers. Dynastic histories traced father to son succession. Women appeared in the record primarily as wives, mothers, daughters defined by relationships to men, not as independent actors. Even powerful women like Tz'akbu Ajaw often went unnamed in official histories, and modern archaeology initially reinforced this bias. When her tomb was discovered, early theories assumed she was related to Pakal mother, daughter, sister because that's how women typically appeared in royal contexts. The possibility that she was his political partner, his co-ruler, his ritual equal, took years to even consider seriously. This erasure happens repeatedly in archaeology. Powerful women are found in spectacular burials, but without clear identifying inscriptions. They're often misidentified as priestesses or consorts rather than rulers. It took DNA evidence, skeletal analysis, and careful reconsideration of fragmentary texts to restore Tz'akbu Ajaw's true identity. And even now, we know frustratingly little about her. When was she born? Unknown. Where did she come from specifically? Probably northern Maya lowlands. But which city? Uncertain. What were her specific political achievements? We can infer influence, but specifics are lost. How many children did she have? At least 2 sons who became rulers, but possibly more. When exactly did she die? Probably around 670 to CE, but we're not sure. The Red Queen's story is haunted by gaps, by silences, by what we can't know because the Maya didn't record it, or because the jungle destroyed it, or because we haven't found it yet. She endured physically, her bones preserved for 1,300 years. But her story nearly didn't survive at all. The Red Queen's discovery fundamentally changed how archaeologists understand Maya women and power. Before her tomb was found, the narrative was simple. Maya civilization was ruled by men. Women were wives, mothers, occasional regents when male heirs were too young. Important, yes, but secondary. The Red Queen challenged that narrative. Here was a woman buried with all the honors of a supreme ruler, adjacent to the greatest king in Palenque's history, with wealth and ritual objects that signaled independent authority. She forced archaeologists to ask new questions. How many other unnamed queens in Maya tombs were actually co-rulers, not just consorts? How many women wielded significant political power, but were erased from official histories? How much of Maya governance was actually partnership between royal couples, not solo male rule? And those questions led to discoveries. Archaeologists started looking more carefully at female burials, at inscriptions mentioning women, at the gaps in dynastic histories where women should appear but don't. And they found that powerful Maya women were more common than previously thought. Lady Kaabel of El Peruwaka, a warrior queen whose tomb, discovered in 2012, rivals any male rulers. Lady Yole Iconal of Palenque, who actually ruled as sovereign, not just regent, decades before Pakal. Lady Six Sky of Naranjo, who commanded armies and expanded her city-state's territory. The Red Queen opened a door, and behind it was an entire landscape of female power that had been overlooked. But her legacy isn't just academic. Today, Temple XIII is one of Palenque's major archaeological sites. Tourists visit her tomb, stand where archaeologists first saw that eerie red glow. Imagine the woman who commanded such reverence. And the Mexican government faces ongoing challenges preserving her remains. The humidity that preserved her bones for centuries now threatens them. Modern exposure to air and fluctuating temperatures is causing deterioration. Conservators have implemented climate controls, limited access, protective barriers, but it's a losing battle against time and tropical weather. The same jungle that the Maya fought to keep at bay is slowly reclaiming what they built, just like it reclaimed entire cities after the Maya collapse. Palenque itself, one of the most spectacular Maya sites, is only about 10% excavated. The rest remains buried under centuries of vegetation. Somewhere in that jungle are more tombs, more queens, more stories, waiting to be found, or waiting to be consumed by roots and rain. The Red Queen endured 1,300 years in darkness, but now, exposed to light and scrutiny, she's fragile. Her bones still stained red, still wearing that jade mask, are slowly deteriorating despite our best efforts, which means the window for studying her directly is closing. Future generations may only have photographs, DNA samples, and museum replicas. The real Red Queen, the actual bones, the actual cinnabar, the actual tomb may not survive another century. There's something tragically appropriate about that. She defied decay for over a millennium, but nothing endures forever. Not civilizations, not monuments, not even carefully preserved queens in sealed stone tombs. There's a photograph from the 1990 for excavation. The Red Queen's sarcophagus just opened. The skeleton clearly visible under layers of red powder. The jade mask catching flashlight beams in the darkness. One archaeologist is kneeling beside the tomb, face hidden by shadow, just looking, trying to comprehend what they've found. A woman, powerful enough to command a pyramid, wealthy enough to be buried in a kingdom's worth of jade, important enough to lie beside Pakal the Great for eternity, but nameless. Unknown, nearly erased by time. For 20 years, archaeologists searched for her identity. DNA tests, isotope analysis, painstaking reconstruction of fragmentary texts, until finally they could call her by name. Tz'akbu Ajaw. Not just the Red Queen, but a real person, a ruler, a partner in building Palenque's golden age. Her story is about more than one woman in one tomb. It's about how history remembers women, how power works in patriarchal societies, how even spectacular burials can't guarantee your story survives. It's about the gaps in the archaeological record, the silences, the unnamed queens and forgotten rulers whose contributions shaped civilizations but were never recorded. And it's about resurrection. Because Tz'akbu Ajaw was buried with the expectation of rebirth, the cinnabar and jade were meant to facilitate her transformation into ancestral deity. And in a sense, it worked. Not literally, not magically, but her rediscovery was a rebirth, a return from oblivion, a restoration of identity after centuries of anonymity. The Red Queen became Tz'akbu Ajaw again, and with that name came recognition, understanding, a place in history as more than Pakal's wife, as a co-architect of the Golden Age, a ritual specialist, a political force, as someone who mattered, who shaped her world, who deserves to be remembered. The jungle will eventually reclaim Palenque. Temple XIII will crumble. The Red Queen's bones will turn to dust. But her story survives now, told in museums and documentaries and archaeological journals. A woman who ruled beside a king, who was buried with honors rivaling his own, who defied time long enough for us to learn her name. That's not just archaeology, that's resurrection. If you love untold stories of forgotten rulers and archaeological mysteries, like, share, and subscribe for more history that rewrites what we thought we knew. Because the most important discoveries aren't always the ones with the clearest inscriptions. Sometimes the most powerful stories are the ones we almost lost.